welcome back. Welcome back to ASMR Money Mentor. Relax. I just love that sound. Relax, 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 relax. I hope everybody had a really great day. Today is Wednesday, December 10th, and this is episode 118. I hope you enjoyed Monday's episode, where I rambled about everything I've done to build wealth over the course of 15 to 18 to 20 years. It really is not rocket science. Anybody can do it as long as you have income. And I know many of you may have like dual income. Everything I shared with you on Monday, by the way, was from a single person perspective. So keep that in mind. If you have a dual income, you could have had so much more money coming in to save and invest. And by the way, I didn't mention on Monday, I probably should have, but my salary in 2005 was probably $38,000 a year. So let's just say about $40,000. And then my salary now with my bonuses is about $120,000. So to put that into perspective for you, some of you might be doing really well. You could be making a lot of money, and yes, it's multiple years later, so with inflation, etc., but we've had relatively low inflationary periods over the course of the 20 years. It's not until recently that things got more expensive, of course. But I just wanted to share that with you, that my income level was not that I was making $300,000 a year. I wasn't making $500,000 a year. I had a very modest income, really, when you think about it. But I was so intentional. Every year, that was my main goal. How can I save and invest as much as possible? Now, things are going to happen in your life. Life is going to go on. You're going to have things happen to you. You may want a bigger home. You may want expensive cars. You might want to take expensive vacations, but try to keep things in perspective. Again, with the goal of trying to max out your retirement accounts as much as possible, especially for those of you that are what I call late in life savers like I was. I did not start until I was 40 years old. Had I started at 25, I could have saved a lot less. A lot of the $1.7 million that I have right now is money that I put into the market. A lot of money. I was saving 70% of my income over the past 5 years, and before that it was like a tiered type savings rate. 5% originally, 10%, it just kept going up, my savings rate. So I was basically living on 30% of my income. If you've got a dual income, that may be possible, especially if you keep your expenses really low. And again, dual incomes, you can do a lot more, perhaps, than I ever did. Now, one thing I forgot to talk about on Monday before we move on to the content of today's episode, I forgot to mention, I wanted to do a rough calculation of what truly is possible from an investment perspective. Remember on Monday's episode, I was saying that if you eventually get to a point where you're saving about the $40,000 per year, that could be $23,000 into your 401k, perhaps about $7,000 or so into your Roth IRA, maybe a few $5,000 into your taxable account. So I did a rough calculation at dinkytown.net, which is where you can go to look at a whole bunch of calculators. And I put in like a savings of 0 for year 1, but then saving $40,000. Well, I should say really a balance starting of 0, and then saving $40,000 for 15 years at an annual rate of return of only 7%. Do you know how much money you would have in those investment accounts at the end of just 15 years? I always like to tell people it's 5, 5, and 5. That goes by faster than you think. You can either be broke in 15 years or you can have some wealth. I would choose the wealth if I were you. So $40,000, 15 years at an average rate of 7% would bring you to $1,075,522.14. Not bad. When you think that historically, over the course of many years, the stock market may return, 10 or 11%? The longer horizon you go out in a period of time, the more likely you are to get the 10 or 11%, if that makes sense. There's volatility from one year to the next. That is true. But when you look at a bigger picture, your lifetime of working, your lifetime of building wealth, your lifetime of building financial independence, you'll probably still get that 10 or 11%. There's going to be years in the future that will be similar to perhaps what I experienced, the Great Recession, etc. The market goes down significantly over, many periods of time. We don't know what will happen in the next 20 years, but I can guarantee you it's going to be volatile. And you're going to continue to just do what you do. You're going to live your life. You're going to be happy. You're going to turn around, and then you're going to wake up like I did at age 4. How old was I? 55, I guess, 55. And you're going to be a millionaire, right? And I know a lot of people say, well, $1 million isn't going to be what it was. Well, it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be what it is now. Of course not. But wouldn't you rather shoot for something anyway than say, I'm not going to be able to achieve it because you think it's unrealistic? No. Do your best every year to continue to save and invest, and I can guarantee you are going to do well with money. It's more about behaviors than anything else. Okay, so what I wanted to share with you today, I guess just briefly, is I did write my retirement letter to my employer of 26 years, and it was short and sweet. It was something like, Dear employer, thank you very much. My retirement date is going to be January 10th of 2025. Thank you for everything you've done for me. And then I said something about, let me know who to talk to in HR about my 401k, etc. And that was it. And after I sent that, I thought, what I really want to write is something that I would never write. But I did think about what I really wanted to say to my employer, and it is this. Thank you so much in 1998, when I was 32 years, for giving me a chance. Even though when I sat down with the person in HR, I'll never forget, I had to tell her that I had a bankruptcy just 3 years prior, when I was 29. And I remember saying to her, I hope this doesn't really affect how you feel about me. And I remember distinctly she said, well, it really depends. What have you done in the past 3 years? And I said, well, I've been learning so much about the mistakes that I made, and that I never want to make those mistakes again. That I'm learning about personal finance. I'm making the right choices. And I said, I would love to work for this company. I said, I've heard a lot about it, and I would really like to be here. And that was in March of 1998, and in October of 1998 is when they hired me. And I was in a department for several years, and then I started to think about the training profession. I love to teach people, like I'm teaching on this channel. And so my career then segued into the training profession. And I was working with internal employees. Then in 2003 is when the company had a reduction in force of about 100 people. My job was eliminated as an internal trainer, but they wanted me as an external trainer, which means I would travel to my clients and I would train them. And I remember saying, I live right by the airport. That would be awesome. So they literally gave me the job. And I thank them for that, because if they did not do that, then I would have been unemployed again, and who knows what would have happened. But because I proved myself in the years prior, and I was doing a great job, I was arriving early, working really hard, I was giving all the value to the company. And that's what I would encourage you guys to do, is give value to your employer, especially while you're young. They're going to see that, and they're going to reward you with the increases that I talked about on Monday, that 2%, 3%, 4% per year. It may not seem like a lot, but it is, because you're going to know what to do with it based on what we talked about again on Monday. I started to travel, I started to work with clients, and every year I just knew I would work as hard as I possibly could, even though, as you'll see this week, actually tomorrow, in the episode that I'm going to, that's going to drop tomorrow, I should say, I get pretty emotional about my past and my career. It is not what I wanted to do when I was in college, and yet I will talk about that in tomorrow's episode. But I did what I had to do, and I look back and I say I'm so glad that I did what I did. I stayed with the company. I continued to do a great job. So I would want to thank them for giving me that opportunity, not only seeing that the bankruptcy was just one part of me, but then also the person that gave me the opportunity to join the training team for external clients. And I've been in that group now for 20 years. It's changed a lot through the years, believe me, with different management, etc. But what a wonderful run that was for me to build wealth, to reach financial independence. If it wasn't for the company that was able to sustain through recessions, that was able to, sustain everything. I was never laid off. All of those years, I had layoffs for 8 or 9 years. In my survival years, I was finally thriving. You know you're thriving when you get to the point that I talked about on Monday, when you're finally putting money into savings and investing. That is the point that you say you're now thriving. So I would thank my employer, but as I alluded to a little while ago, I would really turn that around and thank myself really for having the awareness that I want all of you to have as well, to take the money that a company gives you and allocate it to the proper places that it needs to be. The primary purpose of your income, I've always believed, is not to pay for your todays. It's to pay for your tomorrows. And you will get to your tomorrows when you know that you no longer need a job, that the money that you have saved, the money that you have invested, creates an engine that is so large that it passively pays income to you in and of itself without touching the principle of the money or engine that you have created. That is what financial independence is, and I like to call this the value journey. Remember, I mentioned the word value. When you first start in your career and you start a company, you have to concentrate on giving the company your best self. Your value is in the company that you're giving all of your efforts to. But to truly turn that around in your favor, it takes discipline, it takes knowledge, it takes ability to then switch it. And everything we talked about on Monday builds the value in your favor. Yes, you still gave the company value. But had you not done what I talked about on Monday, there truly is no value for you if you cannot live without a paycheck from that company. It's only when the money that you've created, again, pays you income, can you say, congratulations to yourself that you've created a value in and of itself based on the money that they gave you. Most people take all of that money and they spend it every single year that they receive it. There's no value there. They won't be able to wake up at 58 years old like I did and say, this is the year that I will reach financial freedom. It's not even retirement, it's freedom. And that is the letter that I would have written to my employer. So I'm going to keep that letter, those thoughts, with myself and not share them with anybody but you. Because I want all of you to know, again, that if you make the right choices, you one day will be able to wake up and say that you are financially free. So with that, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and close out this episode. If you like content like this, give me a thumbs